You are not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. Now, this happened to my friend. Now, let's call this friend Sandra. Sandra started a business over a year ago, and Sandra's business was booming. When I say booming, Sandra had arrived. In less than a year, Sandra's business went from 0 to 100. Like, she had a fantastic product line. She had orders on a day-to-day basis. She was growing. She was living the life. Like, I remember we used to tell Sandra, what's the tea? Tell us the deal. What is it about your business? Like, we want to learn because we are a group of friends and we are all entrepreneurs. And so anyone who is excelling, we want to know what the source is so that we can also build our business. And Sandra was like living the life and on top of it all. But there was one thing that Sandra overlooked, and that one thing almost ruined our business. Welcome back to Beyond the Hype, where I share true stories of entrepreneurship. Now, let's get back to Sandra's story, because Sandra's story is one story that will change your mind when it comes to how to run a business. Now, let me put things into perspective for you. Sandra, had a business where every month our sales was predictable, like everything was going very smooth. Until one day, Sandra gave me a call and she was like, oh my goodness, I need your help. I was like, what's going on? What happened? She was like, I have this big order. Like, this order is about to change my life. And I'm like, girl, so what is the issue? Why are you all anxious? Like, what's going on? She's like, I don't have money. I was like, what did you say? She's like, yeah, I don't have money. I was like, no, you can't say that because we know you to have a great business. So where did all that money go to? And that was when we realized that Sandra had no cash flow plan. And if you are in business, you know that without cash, you can hardly grow. So I was like, Sandra, hold up a minute. Like, let's get to the tea. What happened? Where did all of the cash go? And that was when I realized that Sandra has been doing things the opposite way. And honestly, you might look at Sandra right now and be like, really? How could she make that kind of mistake? But the reality is, many of us are like Sandra when it comes to our business. Many of us, despite the fact that business is good, when it comes to our numbers, when it comes to our books, we have no clue on how to manage our finances. We don't have a cash flow plan. And when there is no plan, there is no way you can expand. And if anything goes left, then you're almost at the brink of losing your business, which was very similar to what happened to Sandra. So now let's get into the details. What did Sandra do differently that almost ruined our business? Now, on top of the list was the fact that she had no cash flow plan. So even though she was making a lot of money, she didn't have the money when she needed it. So where did all of Sandra's money go to? First thing that I discovered was that Sandra had one bank account. So she treated a business bank account like it was a personal purse. So every personal expense, every business expense, every luxury lifestyle, Sandra was deeping from the same purse. And that is one of the first things that will crush your business. Your business has an entity of its own, and you are your own individual. And it's very important that you separate your expenses. And in fact, you have to pay yourself. And that was one thing that Sandra did not realize, that, okay, even though I am making all of this money and it is my business, I have to separate it so that way my business has a life of its own and my business is able to grow outside of me. So having one purse for personal life and business life didn't draw a clear line, to realize, what do we truly have from a business perspective and what do I truly have from a personal perspective? And so if you are, like Sandra, and you have one purse when it comes to your business, then you need to stop it right now and get a separate account for your business and a separate one for yourself. And in fact, you have to determine how much you want to get paid, because you're basically going to be employed by your business. So you need to have a salary that you're getting, whether that salary is in form of commission or a fixed rate every month, you have to figure out what works. And you have to sit down and decide that upfront so that you know the business money is business money and personal money is your personal money. Because if you do not do that, guess what? You are going to spend all the money thinking that you have more than enough. And Sandra has a very good taste. She has a high taste and she was spending. But the only thing was, I did not know that she was spending business money. I thought she was spending personal money. And obviously, if your business is doing well, I would assume that you're paying yourself really well. And so you're able to live that comfortable life. But no, Sandra was spending business money. And so when she actually needed money for her business, based on the big deal that she got, she was stranded. She didn't have a way to fulfill that deal because there was no cash anywhere. And that's not what we want to be doing in business. Now, another major reason why Sandra was stranded when it came to cash for a business was the fact that our expenses was always increasing. So for every time that Sandra made more money, Sandra found a reason to buy something. She found a reason to increase our expenses. I remember that Sandra moved from one of our locations that was absolutely great to a bigger location for no reason, but she felt like, hey, I'm now on a different level and I should reflect that. And even though that was a business decision, it was not a smart business decision because in reality, we didn't need that new location and we didn't even have the money to consistently fund that location. And all of those things, she wasn't really thinking about it because she just felt like, hey, business is good, money comes in, money goes out, money will keep coming in, and I should be able to keep funding this lifestyle that I have for my personal life and for my business. And, you know, even though business can go so right in your first year, you don't know what second year is going to look like. You don't know where opportunities will come knocking, and you always want to be prepared. You always want to be ready for those opportunities. And that was one thing that Sandra didn't really put into consideration. So the fact that she experienced so much success early on in business just made her feel like, hey, business is not hard. There are no downtimes in business. Everything will always go well. And when she met an opportunity and she realized that she was not able to fulfill that opportunity, it was heartbreaking, you know, to her and obviously to our friends, knowing fully well that, oh my goodness, your finances was never, you know, in the right place from the jump start, and that's why you are in this big mess. So if you are like Sandra and you are constantly increasing your expenses for no just cause, then you want to think twice about it. The fact that you earn more does not give you any reason to spend more. You have to plan. And that is one thing that is extremely important when it comes to scaling your business and making sure that you have a thriving business. Now, another reason why Sandra got stranded, as I discovered, was the fact that Sandra ran a lot of our business on credit and she had this projected sales. So even though, yes, business was good, there were lots of orders, there were a few customers that were getting the bulk of our orders and they were getting that on credit. And these are individuals. And when it comes to business and running credit with individuals, you have to be very careful because individuals have less at stake when it comes to paying back or fulfilling on that order. Whereas a company, when let's say you have a contract in place and let's say they have a payment time of 30 days or 60 days, it's easier for you to get your money because you have a contract in place. But when it comes to individuals and you don't have, you know, a contract in place, it's just a thing of, okay, supply me, I'll pay you next week, and next week never comes, and then 2 weeks, and it's 3 weeks, and it's 4 weeks. Fine, you've made that sale. But do you truly have that cash in your bank account? Those are two different stories. And that's one thing I realized, that even though we discussed about business and let's say Sandra would say, oh, you know, I made this much money, you know, in this month and I had this many orders in this month. Not all of them were cash collected. And when we kind of went through our numbers, the number of money that she had tied out was actually going to get her broke. And in my head, I was like, how are you surviving? You know, surviving based on the future money you've not collected. And you don't even know when you're going to collect it because these are even individual accounts. And these are people that have defaulted quite a couple of times. And they actually even opened up, some of them opened up like an instrumental plan. And that is just you playing with your business. And that is not a sustainable way to run your business. So that was one mistake that Sandra was making. And she didn't realize that this was going to actually, cost her when she needed it the most, because the contract she got was like the biggest she had ever gotten. And there was no money anywhere for her to be able to fund it. And when she even tried to reach out, to the customers, hey, I need my money urgently. Can you pay me back? Those people were not able to meet up with the timeline that she needed. And so what you need to do differently if you're in Sandra's shoes is reduce the credit that you allow for customers, because the reality is, if you didn't sell on credit to those people, there are other people that had cash that could have bought your product. And that way you would have cash collected that you would then use to process other orders or other contracts that might come your way. But when you're consistently, leaving your business and running your business under credit, yes, you're making the sale, but it's much easier for me to pick up an item if I know that I do not have to pay for it right away, right? If I had to cough out $10,000 today on an item, as opposed to, hey, give me that item, I'll pay you next week. It's much easier for him to pick up the item and I'll say, I'll pay you next week, right? And the next week comes and reality dawns on me and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have $10,000. What am I going to say to Sandra? And then Sandra calls me. I'm like, okay, can you give me another week? And can you give me another week? And before you know it, a week becomes two becomes three becomes four. And then it just keeps dragging and it's going to drag you down. And all of these things almost ruined Sandra, because it got to a point when Sandra was late on expenses, like major expenses, like suppliers that she could not even fulfill anymore because she was stranded on cash. And even though she was now making, a bit of sale, it was not even able for her to be able to meet the requirements from our suppliers. And it was a bit too late when we kind of cut it, because it was when she was in that dilemma that she reached out to me and I'm like, oh, I didn't know all of this was going on. But the amazing thing is there's always a way out. So even though you're in a similar situation like Sandra, you can always course correct and begin to leave your business right. So please, I would advise you to reduce the credit that you give out when it comes to business. Make sure you are paying yourself. Make sure you separate your personal expenses and your personal money from business expenses and from business money. It is extremely important if you want to be able to scale your business. Also, another thing that is very important for small business owners is that you have to understand numbers. You have to understand finances. You have to understand, income, expenses. You have to understand, your cash flow. What is your operating cash flow? What is your investing cash flow? And what is your financial cash flow? It's very important so that you're able to plan accordingly. The money that I need to be able to fund my business should always be available. There should never be a reason where you don't have money to be able to restock your product. You should always have money to pay your current expenses. You have the case of your fixed costs. You should always have funds for those. You should always have funds to invest back into your business. And it comes down to you managing and understanding finances, having a budget, have a business budget, have a personal budget, separate the two, live within your means. The fact that your business is making so much money does not give you any reason to just borrow at will from your business. Because at the end of the day, when that business needs to pay its expenses or when that business needs to restock, where is that money going to come from? Now, I get it. Sometimes we might have access to loans, but sometimes we might not have access to it quick enough for us to be able to catch on an opportunity. So it's very important that right off the cuff, we're planning our expenses, we're managing our business, and we understand our numbers, understand cash flow. Cash is king. As a business, if you do not have money saved to reinvest in your business, if you don't have enough money to pay your expenses, it's just a matter of time before you run out of business. Because at the end of the day, one of the critical things that Sandra had to do, she had to close out that new location that was eating deep into our purse. And she didn't even really need it. She just thought that because money was coming in every time and because she was making a lot of sales and she was believing that she was going to get paid when she was supposed to get paid, she made decisions based on that. And she didn't really need it. It was not a business need. It was more of a business, want. But when, she looked into our numbers. She knew that, oh my goodness, why am I paying this much for something I do not even really need? And so one of the things was we had to stop the bleed and like cross correct all of the things that she was doing wrong. And we had to then create, budget for her account so that she understands, your revenue. She understands expenses. She understands profits. She understands paying herself. She understands, the type of customers that she has, customers that she could allow a bit of credit, customers that she could not allow credit, since she already kind of started business that way. And reducing those number of customers that she gave products on credit. All of that kind of helped save the situation where she did not go bankrupt, because she was almost about to go bankrupt. And it would have been so sad, because Sandra had such a successful story where, our business kicked off right off the cuff and things were going well until when she realized that she did not manage money correctly and she didn't have money to fund a big opportunity that would have taken a business to the next level. So if you're like Sandra, I hope that you take, this discussion and you're beginning to look at the ways that you are mismanaging your business funds and you are cost correcting, and make sure that you're always saving money, right? Always saving money. Do not spend all that you make in your business. Make sure that you have more than enough to be able to go after opportunities, pay your expenses, and expand your business. One thing I've realized when it comes to business is this: it's not the big things that ruin us in business. It's not the big things that make us fail. It's the little things, and it's crucial things like cash flow that really crumbles a business. That's one of the major reasons why businesses do not survive. So if you do not want to be, amongst the business and the percentage of people who fail, in less than 5 years of kicking off a successful business, then you have to treat cash as king, and you have to always manage your cash flow and make sure that you're planning for your finances. I hope today's video has been insightful. I hope you're going to learn from Sandra's mistakes and correct whatever mistakes that you are making in your business so that your business is able to scale and expand and grow beyond your imagination. Thank you very much for spending another time with me on Beyond the Hype, where we share true stories of entrepreneurship. Hope you had a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.